Hey guys, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to be going over Bitcoin. If you guys like this content, please subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on. And also, if you want to jump into the discussions about these types of charts, then please check out my Telegram channel in the description below. We're nearing around 1,200 members or so, so it is growing quite rapidly. And I think we have a lot of good discussions going on there. So, what we're going to look at is we're just going to be looking at the ROI for Bitcoin, and we're going to be going over, from each market cycle bottom. Now, we have looked at this before, and we're basically just going to establish the difference between what an extended market cycle is looking like versus what it would look like if we were indeed on a 4-year market cycle. So, let's just go ahead and jump in. So first of all, if we were on, say, an extended market cycle trajectory, then you could imagine that the first market cycle looks like this, where we're plotting the return on investment from the market cycle bottom, the bottom, being back in 2010. I don't have price data that goes back before that, so there is going to be some error there. Likely this would have taken a little bit longer and maybe the ROI would be slightly different. But anyways, this more or less represents the first market cycle. The orange line represents the second one, and then this line represents the third one. Now, assuming that 3,100 was our bottom, then this purple line represents our fourth market cycle. And until shown otherwise, until the possibility of us going below 3,100 or so actually comes to light, then we will assume for the time being that we are in the fourth market cycle. And what you notice is that by looking at it in this light, that the time to reach the peak of each market cycle is taking longer and longer and decreasing as well. So, considering that, this could be a projection for a fourth market cycle. This is obviously not going to be exactly how it occurs. We could easily come down further. We could go up again and then come back down. If I had predicted this back in the beginning of 2019, I certainly wouldn't have predicted shooting all the way up here and then coming back down. Maybe I would have just drawn straight through this line here. So keep that in mind. I'm not drawing exactly what's going to happen. I'm just trying to show more or less what could be a potential outcome. So this is a potential scenario in which we're peaking maybe say the end of 2022, early 2023, something like that, as opposed to 2021, because we're looking at days since the bottom. And the days since the bottom on this chart would put us, at around, I think last time I drew it at like say 1,400 days, or this one is like at 1,500 days. Obviously, I don't know exactly when it might occur, but we could imagine it doing something like this, which would put it, somewhere out in 2022, 2023. Now, if we assume that we are not in a fourth market cycle, and in fact, maybe we have not bottomed yet, then this would be the third market cycle. And you could see that if we are still in the third market cycle, then each bear market is getting longer and longer and longer. So, there is this potential case, and if we are still in the third market cycle and we haven't even begun the fourth one, then the time to see another peak could be very far out. But I actually don't think this is the case. I don't think we are still in the third one. I think we're more likely to be in the fourth one. Now, what if we assume that we are on a 4-year market cycle? Well, how do we do that? Well, one way would be to assume that the first and second market cycles are part of the same market cycle, and that this bear market was not actually the end of this cycle, but rather, just just part of the same cycle that peaked all the way up here at the end of 2013. Now, if that is the case, then the ROI from market cycle bottom to up here is higher than 10 to the 4. And then the next one would have been around 10 to the 2. And actually, if you're talking about 4 years, this one is actually slightly longer than what the second cycle would have been. And in fact, it's not, this doesn't even do it justice, since this only shows data from sometime in 2010. If we were to go back further in the history of Bitcoin, I mean, the Genesis block was on January 3rd. So if you go further back into the history of Bitcoin, add another year to this. I mean, this might even be all the way out another year or so. Because, if Bitcoin first launched into the beginning of 2009 and didn't see its first peak of a market cycle until the end of 2013, we're only a month or two shy from it being a 5-year cycle. To me, it doesn't really make sense that the cycles would be getting shorter. I would lean towards thinking that each cycle is going to take longer and longer, and that the ROI is going to experience diminishing returns. So basically, the idea is not only is your potential profits going to be reduced in any subsequent market cycles, but in addition, it's going to take longer to see those smaller ROIs. And I think that kind of makes sense if you think about it in terms of Bitcoin ultimately heading towards some type of price stabilization in the next few decades. And there was a video I made about that, and I will link it at the end of this video if you're interested to watch that. So, but anyways, I mean, if we were to assume that this was just one market cycle, and then this was the second one, I mean, the ROI from market cycle bottom is 2 orders of magnitude lower. I mean, from 10 to the 4 down to 10 to the 2. So from 10,000 or even 20,000 ROI return on investment down to 100. So that's a 200x difference between these two market cycles. And obviously, if you were just to continue a 2 order of magnitude difference, and they would just put the next one at 10 to the 0, which clearly does not make sense. I guess it could if the price is just going to stabilize, but I don't think we have reached that point yet. And maybe you could say, well, maybe the next one's going to be 10 to the 1, which would then put us at around, say, $30,000. But I feel like my all the evidence that I've seen, and I've gone through this in a lot of other videos, makes me think that this in and of itself is a market cycle, and then this one is a new cycle. I mean, this is a significant percent loss. I mean, this was going from $1,100. So this one was going from $1,100 down to a little below, say, $200, and this one over here was going from maybe $30 or so down to $2 or $3 or something like that. I understand the outstanding circumstances at the time with different things going on at the time, the space not being as mature, people not having as good control of their coins and stuff. You could argue, all sorts of different reasons as to why this might not be a legit bear market, but I feel like it is. I think that this was the first cycle, this was the second, this was the third, and then this was the fourth. If you compare them side by side, I mean, it just seems like this one makes more sense. I mean, the cycles are getting longer, and the ROI is decreasing. This one, it would show that the cycles are getting shorter, and the ROI is drastically decreasing by 200x from this first to the second. And so I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you guys think we are on this 4-year market cycle path, which really isn't even? I mean, this is more of a 5-year cycle if you go all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin. And note that this, the time difference between, say, even taking the beginning in, say, 2010, this is still 100 days or so after this one. So what this would say is, the cycles are getting shorter. If we continue that trend, then the next cycle might end here at 1,000 days. So, I would like to hear what you guys think. Do you think it's a 4-year cycle? Do you think the cycles are lengthening? Let me know in the comments below. Again, please subscribe to this channel if you guys like the content. I also have the Telegram channel if you want to check that out. And then finally, if you are interested, feel free to check out my Patreon, and I have several different tiers that you can access and unlock various things that way. I do have a couple of things coming up soon. We're working on the launch of a website, which will have live updated charts, and we are also working on launching pretty much a full-fledged Bitcoin report that will extensively go through, basically all the analysis that I've done on Bitcoin, with long discussions about each chart, how they interact with one another, how different metrics are interacting with one another. It's going to be a fairly extensive report. I'm hoping to release it, sometime in the next week or two, and we will, when that comes out, we can further talk about that. But until then, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.